Hey, welcome back to another episode on In the Simple Nutrition Podcast. I am your host, Leonila Campos, registered dietitian. So today I wanted to talk about intermittent fasting because I've had, obviously, I see different clients, but most of my clients come to me because they want to lose weight. And so as we talk about different tools and different resources to help them achieve the goals that they have, intermittent fasting is one of them. And so I recently had, someone ask me what were my thoughts on intermittent fasting. And so, I gave them my answer. And so then it made me think, okay, this is something that it's really good to talk about, right? Because it can be a very useful tool to help us achieve a specific goal. So let's define what that is, right? Intermittent fasting is basically what it says, right? Fasting for a certain period of time, meaning you're not going to have anything to eat. You can have non-calorie drinks such as water and black coffee and unsweetened drinks. And that's pretty much it, right? Until you reach that time when you get to eat, right? And that's pretty much it. Now, there's different ways that you can go about intermittent fasting, such as you go 12 hours without anything to eat, including the time that you sleep. And then, you have a window of time, I don't know, 12-hour window of time to eat or something like that. Or you go 16 hours fasting and the rest, could be your window of eating. Uh, there's some of them that are more restrictive, meaning that you only have 4 hours to eat and then the rest are 20 hours of fasting, or you do fasting for 5 days and non-fasting for the next 2 days, or you do fasting for 5 days, which is the 5-2. You fast for 5 days and then or you don't fast for 5 days and you fast for 2 days and then you only consume a very small amount of calories, right? 600 calorie meal, and that's pretty much it. Now, just like any other diet, right? If you see intermittent fasting as a diet, then my friend, that's not gonna work for you, right? Because it's in your head, it's just a short term, right? It's just something that I have to do to get me from here to here. And then after that, who knows, right? Whatever. If that is the case, then please don't do it, right? Because it's not going to work. It's just like any other diet, any other fat diet. And so, what I tell my patients and anyone that asks me, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting, is it is a tool, right? You can use it as a tool, as a resource to help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So, for example, there is actually a good amount of research, and I'll link some of the research studies in the show notes. But there is some research that shows that if intermittent fasting, if it's done properly, right, with the assistance of a registered dietitian or a health professional, then it can help you to achieve your goals. Meaning that it can help you to have weight loss if that's the case. So when my patients come to me and they say, I've been doing intermittent fasting, and we go over, what that is, then the main focus for me as a registered dietitian, helping my client that's coming to me for weight loss, is what is the quality of your food, right? Yes, you are only eating for 4 hours, right? But what are the types of foods that you are consuming for those meals? And so once I assess that, right, then we can make some changes. Because as a dietitian, right, as your dietitian, my goal, right, is to meet you where you are and go from there. Okay, so quality of your meals matters extremely, right? Because even though we're using intermittent fasting to help us lose weight, right, or whatever the case may be, if let's say we have 4 hours, a 4 hour window of time, psychologically, right, your brain is like, or mentally your brain is like, okay, we have 4 hours to only eat, right? And then we cannot eat anything else. Let's eat everything that we want, right? And so that essentially we're not really changing anything, right? We're just like packing these foods these calories in just that 4 hour window of time. And yes, we might be eating less, slightly less, right? But the quality of the food is not the best. So intermittent fasting can be a great tool, a resource to help you achieve the goals that you want, nutrition goals, fitness goals that you want. But it really comes down to the quality of your food, right? And the quantity too, essentially. So think of it this way, right? Okay, I've had people that tell me I do intermittent fasting and I only eat one meal. Now, what comes to my mind as a dietitian is like the amount of nutrients that you need to pack in that one meal, right? In order for your body to get those nutrients that you need, like you really have to plan for it, right? You really have to be intentional about those meals or that specific meal. And so if you tell me, oh no, I just eat whatever, I used to have hamburgers and fries and I don't know, a shake or whatever, or a whole pizza. Yes, you are getting a ton of calories that way, but are they, good quality calories, good quality macros? And the answer is no, right? Because in just one meal, you cannot pack 1,000 milligrams of calcium that you need, right, for those bones, or you cannot pack, the iron that you need, or the fiber that you need, right, to keep your intestines clean and to have good bowel movements and to help with the cholesterol and the blood sugars, which ideally, right, intermittent fasting can help with that because you're giving your body a break, right, from having so much food and your body having to work nonstop, right? You are giving your body a break, and that's wonderful, right? Because you're allowing your liver, you're allowing your pancreas to have a break, regenerate, and go back to essentially normal levels. But if we're having these high calorie, not very nutrient dense meal, you're still making your organs work pretty hard, right, to try to digest that food. And so thinking about the things that we do, right, the purpose of it, and is what we are doing really beneficial for our bodies? So asking those questions can help, right? So um, going back to the basics, right? And I'm going to say this time after time. Nutrition is simple, hence why I name my podcast Simple Nutrition. But a lot of the times we make it complicated because in our brains we think, okay, this is very simple. Is this really what it's all about, right? And it is. Nutrition is very simple. When we think about the nutrients that we need, and everything that we eat has to be digested into those three macronutrients, right? Protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Then we just have to focus, right, on making sure that those macronutrients come from high quality foods. Making sure again that we follow the 3-2-1 method, right, with all our meals. At least 3 ounces of protein, at least 2 cups of vegetables, and then a serving of grains, starchy vegetables, fruit, carbohydrates, whatever it is that we want to add extra, and some healthy fats. And that is it, right? If there is something that we have to adjust for whatever reason, then we do that, but we really have to go back to the basics. Even when we do intermittent fasting, right, we have to go back to the basics. Because let's say, okay, we fasted, right? We did a 16-hour fast, and now it's our window where we get to eat. And our first meal, right, or our only meal is high in, okay, let me have this super sugary drink or this coffee that has tons of sugar in it. What do you think that's going to do to your body, right? Those blood sugar levels are going to spike because you're putting so much sugar in your blood, in your system. And then what happens is that your pancreas is going to release this surge of insulin because there's so much sugar in the blood circulating that insulin has to grab it and take it into the cells, right? And so now we are pushing our pancreas to do more work, and now we're pushing our liver to do more work to store the glucose, right, and to store not only in the liver but also our muscle cells. And then if it's extra, then in our fat cells. And so again, the quality of the food is super essential. But right, if this is something that you really want to do, that I highly recommend, one, either you do your research coming from reputable sources, right? Schools or in medical schools or any kind of research that is backed up by science versus like, this person is an influencer and is doing intermittent fasting and they haven't result, they're showing results. No, my friend, you have to do your own research and work with a dietitian to help you create that plan that is going to be specific for you, but also that is going to help you in an ongoing basis to see if something is not working well for you. Okay, let's figure out why, right? And then moving forward that way. But going back to the research in terms of intermittent fasting, yes, there's wonderful research out there that it does show that it helps with insulin resistance, it helps with blood pressure regulation, it helps to lower, body weight, it helps with better glucose control for someone that has diabetes, type 2 diabetes specifically. And so there is some research that shows that intermittent fasting can be helpful, right? But again, it may not be for everybody. And here is why. Intermittent fasting, and the research shows this too, that it's not for someone that has type 1 diabetes because they depend on insulin, right? And so if we don't eat, if we still inject insulin, the purpose of insulin is to bring down the blood sugar levels, right? And so if you're not eating and then you're using insulin because you need it, right? It's like you depend on it, then those blood sugar levels can drop significantly. And that is very dangerous, right? Because that can lead to ketoacidosis or and then coma, and then the worst. And so type 1 diabetes is for someone that has type 1 diabetes is not recommended. Number two, for someone that has an eating disorder, right? Because if we have these bouts of restriction, not restriction, binge eating, not eating at all, and then we add intermittent fasting, which is again restriction, right? The restrictive windows of eating and not eating, then that can lead to even more disorder, right? So that has been shown that is also not recommended. Again, if it's used, under the supervision of a health professional or a dietitian, then that's fine, right? Because you're under that supervision. But if it's just someone that is going through that, intermittent fasting and eating disorders usually don't go hand in hand. The other one, athletes, right? If you're an endurance athlete, right, and you don't eat for a long period of time, and your body uses all the glycogen stores, right, where it stores glucose, then it's hard for your body, excuse me, it's hard for your body to use ketones, right, which are the byproducts of fat metabolism. Um, then, then it's harder for you to perform better, right? And so thinking about that, okay, because remember that glucose is the number one fuel source of your body and your brain specifically. And so thinking about that too, but also pregnancy and breastfeeding. Goodness, I have really issues with my throat right now. My kids are sick and I'm trying not to get sick, but anyway. And so that can also not be, it's also not recommended, right? Doing it during pregnancy and also breastfeeding. As a side note, when was it? I don't know, over 3 years ago, I was having a lot of clients come into me because of intermittent fasting. Again, we go through to these trends, right? And so intermittent fasting was more trendy at that time. And so I was having a lot of my clients come in and ask me about intermittent fasting. And then just as I'm telling you right now, right, I was giving them that answer and telling them that it is a tool, it's a resource that we can use, but it has to be used properly. And so I was like, and I was breastfeeding at that time because my 3.5-year-old now, he was still small and I was still breastfeeding. And so I said, well, let's give this a try, right? Let's see what is the hype about it. And so I decided to do some intermittent fasting while breastfeeding, right? And I knew that I was tracking my milk supply and my energy levels and all that. And I did see a drop in my breast milk supply, right? Because we decreased the calories. Producing breast milk requires calories, right? We don't just produce it like, obviously, if you're our bodies are amazing and they're able to adapt. But when there is a decrease, a significant decrease in calories, right, um, there is going to be a change in the breast milk production. So I did see that huge change, right? And so I was making notes of that. But also, right, the more I did it, I was getting more mentally used to not eating breakfast. And mind you, I love the breakfast, right? Breakfast, like, is my number one meal, and I have to have breakfast. But did see that huge change in breast milk supply, but also in my energy levels, because I'm a morning person and I usually work out first thing in the morning, 4:30 at that time, 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. And usually I don't eat anything, but I was having that window time when I wouldn't eat until 12 p.m. And so I did see a huge change in my energy levels and my mood, and just how I performed. And so, right, just as a side note, right, it is something that if you do decide to do it, right, you have to, again, one, work with a professional, a registered dietitian that is going to help you maximize those calories and those nutrients. But you also, on your own, right, on a daily basis, you have to track what are the changes that you are seeing, positively and negatively, right? So that way you know where to make a change or where to adjust the nutrition or the plan. And so, um, to bring it back all together, right? Yes, intermittent fasting can be a huge tool to help you achieve your weight loss goals, or to help you achieve, your goals of rejuvenating your liver or giving your pancreas a break, right? Because of that insulin resistance, um, that can be definitely a help, right? But we have to really look at how our meals are composed, right? Are we having high quality nutrients? Are we having high quality foods to help us have energy, right? To help us restore our bodies, to help us heal and recover? Because not eating enough can also affect your sleep and can affect your stress. And then we have this cycle, right? That we're hungry all the time, and the only thing that we think about is food, and that's uncomfortable, right? But then again, we're creating these unhealthy behaviors. And so we have to really look at, is this going to help me with my goals, with my long-term goals, right? Or if it's just something that is short-term, if that's the case, then don't, right? Because it's not going to help you. It's going to give you more issues, essentially. And so looking at more of a lifestyle change, a long-term goal, right? Yes, we can use intermittent fasting as a tool to help us, achieve our goals. And then how do we want to move forward after that, right? That would be one of the main things. And again, going back to basics, right? We just don't want to have that window of time where we eat and we eat junk, right? It's okay to have cake, it's okay to have these other foods that we enjoy, but the majority of our meals have to be well balanced and have to be nutrient rich, right? Nutrient dense. Going back to the 3-2-1 method. And so, my friend, again, right, if this is something that you really want to do, it's something that you've been thinking about it, do some research. I'm adding some of that research in the show notes so you can take a look at that. Work with a registered dietitian to help you create a plan for you that is going to work for you, and that is not just like a one size fits all. And like, I hear my patients all the time, I go into Google and I search, and then one page gives me this information and then the other page tells me something completely different. And that's overwhelming, right? Like, what do I do? Who do I believe? So work with a professional that went to school for it, like me. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know what you think. And then if you are in that process, and if you have more questions about intermittent fasting, how to maximize your meals, how to be intentional about your nutrients, don't forget to reach out, right? You can send me an email at fueledbyleo@gmail.com. You can send me a text or call me at 559-512-0404. You can download my ultimate meal planning guide which shows you how to create healthy and balanced meals. So even when you're fasting, right, your meals you want them to be well balanced. And that is it for today, my friends. Stay safe, stay strong, and I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye bye for now.